Have you ever looked at a massive skyscraper or just a bustling busy city and totally marveled at how all those moving parts work together so perfectly? Well, today we're jumping into an explainer on an architecture that is infinitely more complex, vastly more fascinating, and yet completely invisible to the naked eye. We are talking about the literal architecture of life itself, the cell. We're kicking off our cell analogy project today, and I am absolutely pumped to guide you through this because it is genuinely going to change the way you see biology. But here's the biggest hurdle in science, right? I want to pose this directly to all of you 8th graders out there. How do you truly understand something you can't even see? When we study biology, we're throwing around these massive, intimidating words like mitochondria, ribosomes, and endoplasmic reticulum. And, it's so easy to just memorize those terms for a test and totally forget them by the next morning. But that's not what actual learning is about. If we can't see a cell functioning right in front of us, how on earth do we make sense of its crazy complex machinery? Well, we need a creative solution. We need a bridge between that microscopic world and the world we live in every single day. So here is our roadmap for today. 1. What is an analogy? 2. Why use analogies? 3. How to build yours. And 4. Education with true purpose. All right, let's jump straight into part 1. What is an analogy? At its core, an analogy is really just comparing cells to everyday systems to help us understand their roles in a fun, creative way. Think of it like a mental shortcut. An analogy takes something that's totally foreign and hard to grasp, like the inner workings of a tiny cell, and connects it to something you're already super familiar with. It anchors the unknown to the known. And by doing this, you aren't just memorizing definitions anymore, you're understanding functions. You're giving those tiny, invisible cell parts actual real-life jobs that you can clearly picture in your head. Moving right along to part 2, why use analogies? You might be wondering, why not just read the textbook chapter and take a quiz? Well, because there is a much deeper lesson here. 1 Corinthians 12:14 tells us, "For the body does not consist of one part, but of many." When you look at a cell, you aren't just looking at one random blob doing everything. You're seeing many different, highly specialized parts, organelles, working together in perfect harmony. If one single part fails, the whole cell suffers. And this biological truth perfectly mirrors a spiritual truth. Just like every single cell part absolutely matters for the cell to survive, every person and every unique gift matters in the body of Christ. There are 0 useless parts in a cell, and there are 0 useless people in the world. So the real takeaway here is that this project has massive benefits. It's going to make science so much easier to understand by relating it to what you already know. It proves, without a shadow of a doubt, just how essential teamwork is in biology. But even more importantly, it reminds us that literally everyone has a role to play. It beautifully connects how all these tiny parts working together serve a much, much greater purpose. As you map out your cells, I want you to remember that you are looking at a master blueprint of purposeful teamwork. Okay, on to part 3, how to build yours. Let's get creative. Let's look at some examples to get your imagination fired up. Imagine comparing a cell to a bustling, busy city. If you're looking down at a huge metropolis, the nucleus is City Hall, right? It's the command center holding all the important blueprints and laws. The mitochondria? That's the city's power plant, constantly cranking out the energy needed to keep the lights on. The endoplasmic reticulum, or ER, represents the roads and highways, transporting materials all over town. And the Golgi apparatus? That is the post office, carefully sorting, packaging, and shipping goods to their final destinations. Suddenly, the cell isn't just microscopic goo anymore. It's a living, breathing city. Or hey, let's apply this to an environment you know incredibly well, your own school. If the cell is your school building, the nucleus is the principal, directing all the activities. The ribosomes, which make essential proteins in a cell, well, they are like your teachers, producing the essential knowledge you need to grow. The lysosomes, which clean up cellular waste, those are the hardworking janitors keeping the environment safe and clean. And the cell membrane, which controls what goes in and out, that's the security team at the front doors. Makes total sense, right? You already know exactly how school works, which means you essentially already know how a cell works. Let's do one more really fun example. Imagine a bakery. The nucleus is the master recipe book, locked safely away in the manager's office, holding all the instructions. The mitochondria is the roaring oven, providing the heat and energy to actually bake. The Golgi apparatus is the packaging counter, where the fresh bread is boxed up and labeled. And the endoplasmic reticulum acts just like the delivery belts, sliding those finished pastries right out to the storefront. Honestly, you can pick almost any system in the world, and you are going to find these exact same cellular roles perfectly mirrored in it. So, here is exactly how you're going to tackle your assignment. It's just 4 super easy steps. Step 1, Choose a theme. Go wild with this. Maybe it's a theme park, a spaceship, a sports team, or even a video game console. Step 2. Map out those organelles. Figure out what part of your theme perfectly matches the function of the nucleus, the mitochondria, and all the rest. Step 3. Create a beautifully labeled diagram and write up a short explanation for each of your pairings. And finally, step 4. Share your creation with your classmates. This is your chance to really show off your imagination.
And finally, part 4, education with true purpose.
I want to take a quick step back here and pivot to the overarching philosophy of our academy. I've got a pretty provocative question for you. What is the actual point of being smart? Seriously, think about it for a second. Why are you spending all these hours studying cell structures, math equations, and history? What happens if you gain all the knowledge in the entire world, but you completely lack a moral compass?
Well, here's the harsh truth. Education without morality will hurt. In the Heroes Smart Academy's Godly Learners series, we intentionally intertwine biblical morality with your education because, honesty, intellect alone just isn't enough to protect you. I mean, what is the point of being incredibly smart and supposedly well-educated if you just keep making bad, immoral choices that hurt yourself and the people around you? An educated mind paired with a corrupted heart is a totally dangerous combination. Real wisdom requires both the knowledge itself and a strong moral foundation to actually guide how you use that knowledge.
And that brings us to this really incredible promise. Romans 8:6-7 promises peace of mind to everyone who keeps their mind spiritual. That is the ultimate goal of engaging with all of our content. Yes, we absolutely want you to be academically brilliant, to understand the amazing complexities of the cell and the whole universe. But we also want you to experience deep, lasting peace of mind. By keeping your mind spiritual and anchoring your knowledge in God's truth, you're ensuring that your education actually leads to life and peace, rather than pain and confusion.
Which leaves me with a final thought for today's explainer. As you go off to build your awesome projects, drawing out your spaceships, your theme parks, or those bustling cities, I want you to keep this lingering homework question right in the back of your mind. What did your analogy teach you about God's design? When you see how utterly perfectly all these microscopic pieces work together for much greater purpose, what does that tell you about the architect who designed life itself? Have so much fun with this project, dig deep, and I seriously cannot wait to see the incredible worlds you build.